you've read the title, so you're probably wondering, what on earth am I talking about? 7 years later, the M5 iPad Pro only came out less than 2 weeks ago. Well, you see, I wasn't referring to this iPad, I was referring to this iPad. This is my 2018 iPad Pro, an iPad that I've been using for the past 7 years. Even though I've reviewed a number of iPads since 2018, I just didn't feel the need to upgrade because all the iPad Pro models from 2018 to 2024 were just spec bumps. The 2024 M4 iPad Pro, however, was a different story, as it had a thinner design and an OLED display, and that's the one that really tempted me to upgrade. So I used it for about a month, I even traveled with it, and then I sent it back. Because it was still an iPad, one that was heavily limited by iPadOS. But this time it's different, because even though the M5 iPad Pro is a spec bump from last year's M4 model, we've now got iPadOS 26, which is a complete revamp of how multitasking works, bringing it extremely close to macOS, which combined with a new app menu bar, the proper mouse cursor, background app usage, and a vastly improved Files app, the M5 iPad Pro is the one that finally prompted me to switch. So here are a number of things that I've noticed as big upgrades coming from my 2018 iPad Pro, which will also apply to you if you're coming from an older iPad. But before that, do you want your iPad to feel like writing on real paper? In that case, you need Paperlike. The new Butterfly application system for the Paperlike 3 ensures a reliable application. Just use the QR code to follow the interactive guide for a simple, fuss-free fit. There's a Paperlike available for every iPad, so your Apple Pencil input can feel better than ever. Check them out by using the link below. Okay, so for me, coming from an 11-inch iPad Pro, the first thing that I've noticed was the size. I always felt that a 13-inch model was far too big, and it definitely felt massive at first, but the more I kept on using it, the more it started to feel like this was the right size. And now I find going back to my 11-inch to be a noticeable downgrade in usability. That's especially the case when using the Magic Keyboard. Just having full-sized keys makes a world of a difference, and it kind of makes it feel like I'm using my MacBook Air. And of course, for viewing content, this 13-inch display is incredible. Now, if you do plan on using your iPad without a Magic Keyboard, then maybe getting the 11-inch model is a better choice, but other than that, I would definitely suggest the 13-inch. The second thing that I've noticed is just how incredible this iPad feels in my hands. The 2021 M1 and 2022 M2 12.9-inch iPad Pros, they always felt heavy and thick, but the M5, same as the M4 really, feels so thin and so light. It kind of feels like I've just got this large sheet of glass in my hands, and because of how well the weight is distributed, it doesn't feel that much heavier than my previous 11-inch model. Yeah, I'd recommend you guys going to an Apple store and holding the 13-inch iPad Pro in your hands. You'll just be amazed by how incredible this feels in your hands. Which brings me to by far the best part about this new iPad Pro, its screen. And I gotta say, our wallpapers on this new iPad Pro's display look phenomenal. Just take a look at Tahoe Twilight by Mahim, it simply pops. And Topographic Threads by Wall Media really takes advantage of the tandem OLED display too. Then Twisted Tones by Michael is another design that looks incredible on this display. And hey, let me know if your city appears in this city cartography pack by Laura. You can get the first wallpaper of each pack for free and at 8K on wallpapers by using the links below. Yes, this display right here is the world's best display. And that's not me or Apple saying this because we both love this display so much. That's apparently a fact. Numerous reviewers and publications have claimed the same, that no other display comes close to the quality offered by this iPad Pro screen. The $20,000 reference monitors are a match, just not in terms of the price, of course. And the reason why this display is so incredible is because Apple is using two OLED panels stacked on top of each other to deliver an insane level of brightness, 1600 nits peak and 1000 nits sustained. That's almost 3 times the sustained brightness of other OLED displays. And the crazy thing is that no other Apple product has this level of a display panel. The iPhone's display is way smaller and cannot sustain 1000 nits, as it does tend to dim quite quickly. The MacBook Pro's display can sustain 1000 nits and 1600 peak, but that's mini LED and not OLED, so you do get that mini LED glow. And the Vision Pro, while it's got much higher res micro OLED displays, they cannot actually go that bright. So coming from my 2018 iPad Pro that only had an LCD display, this is just a night and day improvement. Blacks are perfectly black, and watching HDR content just pops like nothing. Same goes for viewing photos. It's just incredible. And also compared to my MacBook Air, I just don't even want to touch that Air anymore after experiencing the iPad Pro's display, which is bigger at 120Hz, OLED, and more than 3 times brighter. So viewing content, especially at night, is literally a world apart. I've also enjoyed using it with a PS Remote app to stream PS5 games to it. Thanks to that OLED display, the experience was actually quite similar to playing on my actual OLED TV, and miles better when compared to the PlayStation Portal, which has a very poor LCD screen. And of course, if you want, you can also configure this with the nano texture coating, although you do need to get the 1TB or 2TB versions first, and then pay $100 on top of that. So personally, my 512GB version is more than enough for me, and I just don't need that nano texture coating. And that brings me to the performance. I never thought my 2018 iPad Pro was slow, at least not until iPadOS 26, which did affect its performance quite dramatically. However, I was mostly using my iPad Pro as a secondary screen for my Mac, so that slower performance didn't really bother me. But the moment I started using the M5, I was blown away, as it was just flying through everything that I was throwing at it. Apps loaded instantly, navigation was buttery smooth, even using it as a secondary display for my Mac felt considerably more responsive. So I was curious, how much more powerful is my M5 iPad Pro compared to my 2018 model? Well, in Geekbench 6, the M5 iPad Pro is 3 times faster in terms of single core and 3.6 times faster in terms of multi-core performance. A good improvement for sure, although I was expecting a much bigger difference here. GPU-wise, I tried running the 3D Mark Solar Bay Extreme test, which uses ray tracing. However, this just didn't work on my 2018 iPad Pro at all, since there's no support for hardware-based ray tracing. So I ran the Geekbench GPU test instead, where the M5 iPad Pro scored 4.3 times more. Again, a decent improvement, but I was hoping to see something like a 10x to 20x improvement here. I guess that only applies to ray-traced scenes. And then I also tried exporting a video in iMovie, since Final Cut for iPad isn't supported on the 2018 model. I exported my 12-minute iPhone 17 Pro Max review, which was only 23% faster on the M5 iPad Pro. Yeah, not the improvement that I was expecting to see here. However, the big improvement that I was able to measure was in terms of AI, where the M5 iPad Pro was not 10 times faster, not even 20, but 134 times faster. So any AI tasks that you do, like image generation, Apple Shortcuts, summarizing text, all of that would be much faster on the M5 model. And of course, there's no Apple Intelligence support at all on the 2018 model. On top of this, you can also run apps like Final Cut Pro that just don't work at all on the 2018 model. You can also run some true AAA titles like Resident Evil 4, Village, Death Stranding, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and more. And I gotta say, these games actually look and run really well. It's not PS5 level of performance, of course, but they will look better than any of the usual iPad games. Not even to mention that it's got triple the amount of RAM at 12GB compared to 4, or even 4 times if you go for the 1TB or 2TB versions that come with 16GB. So yeah, just using it and going back and forth between my apps is noticeably faster and more responsive on the M5 iPad Pro. Plus, I can also keep way more apps open in the background. Then external display support is also heavily improved on the M5 model, as the 2018 could only mirror its screen, but the M1 and later versions can use that as an extended display. So I can have different windows open on my iPad Pro, and then even more windows open on my external screen. That, by the way, kind of looks like macOS now. It's just a shame that I can only use one external screen, but still a major improvement over my 2018 model here. Then the cameras are also a major upgrade over my 2018 model. The front camera is noticeably better in low light, and it's also a center stage camera now. So it's super wide by default, but then it crops in to track your movement when you're in a video call. Oh, and it's also landscape, so using it for video calls is miles better than on the 2018 model. The back camera is actually the same module as on the 2018 iPad Pro, so it is a very tiny 1/3-inch sensor. However, the image processing has been improved, although there's no night mode support on it for whatever reason. But really, one of my favorite things about the M5 iPad Pro is just having cellular. I didn't have this on my 2018 model, so I wanted to get it on this one so that I could use it on the go without having to hotspot from my iPhone and kill its battery super quickly. And I'm happy to say that number one, cellular was super easy to set up. It took me like 10 minutes, and number two, I was actually getting better signal compared to my iPhone while on a train. And being able to just open it up and be instantly connected to the internet is honestly so cool. And lastly, the battery life has been very good too. I usually get between 1.5 to 2 days of full usage out of it, which is very similar to what I get from my MacBook Air. Now, sure, the MacBook Air is rated for 18 hours as opposed to 10 like the iPad Pro, but macOS is more intensive, and I do have way more background processes open on my MacBook Air, so in terms of my usage at least, I do find them to be quite similar in terms of the battery life. And now charging my iPad is crazy fast too, literally 50% in 30 minutes, whereas my 2018 would charge to around 30% in 30 minutes. So all in all, the M5 iPad Pro is a huge upgrade over my 2018 model. And I think that if you're coming from any model but the M4, you're going to notice a massive improvement. Whether that's thanks to its stunning display or the thinner body or the much more fluid and responsive performance. And with iPadOS 26, I think I may even be able to replace my MacBook Air when I'm traveling just with the iPad Pro. But that's something for another video. So do subscribe for that. And check out our app wallpapers for some stunning designs like this one. I'm Daniel, this is Zoneoftech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Zoneoftech, signing out. Cheers.